Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Am Not Okay with Day. I am your host, Day. And today, once again, we are joined by the beautiful Mel B.
What's up? What's up?
And we are here for part two of our self love series. I'm very
Mhm.
excited to dive into everything to continue really the conversation that we were having during the last episode. And so we're going to get right into it, but first, y'all already know the deal. We're going to talk about something that made us feel some type of way. So Mel, you go first, honey. Let us know.
Oh, my some type of way. All right. So this one still digesting, okay? Um yeah, so my some type of way is something was revealed to me. And I'm going to find the best way to say it. But this is how I'm just going to go with it and we're just going to figure it out from here. But my exit was required for someone else's happiness.
Wow. Mercy.
That's
Mercy.
just what we're gonna go with right now. That had me feeling some type of way because it felt, ooh, how do I word it? I'm telling you, I'm still trying to take it in,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like I'm realizing that I'm experiencing happiness in my life. And oftentimes when you feel happy, you would think you could be happy with others. And that's not
Mhm.
often the case. And so sometimes my happiness, I'm learning, can trigger other people in different ways.
Mm.
And so for people to protect themselves, they have to exit my life
Wow.
to find their happiness and experience their happiness. And I'm so happy for them, but it kind of sucks because it's
Yeah.
like, wow, pictured life being different. I didn't know that my happiness would come at the cost of losing other people,
Mhm.
and choosing me was a part of that. And so, as you can hear, I'm a little sad still because I'm still processing it, but it feels like, you know, I I did something wrong when I know I didn't. And I know I'm still a good person. I still have great intentions. Like, it doesn't speak anything as to me, but
Mhm.
it could feel like that. It could feel like, well, what could I have done better? But honestly, that's how sensitive life is when it comes to each of us, is that we are all on such unique paths and journeys that what makes another person happy can affect somebody else.
Mhm.
There's just, I'm noticing that there's so many ways that we affect each other without intentionality.
Yeah.
And it's not personal, but it just really shows how we real deal have to like take care of ourselves and really choose ourselves, because yeah, if there's things that just no longer serves you, and if you don't figure out why or what that reason could be and not make it like a personal thing, but just looking at it from like a bigger perspective of, you know what, this person needed to step away for their happiness. And I get that. And it's nothing I could have done differently because maybe I was blocking their ability to get to their happiness. And so
Mm.
embracing that and understanding that. So it had me feeling some kind of way. So I'm like kind of grieving certain things right
Yeah.
now. Because it kind of sucks because it's like, dang, I thought we could all be happy together. No,
Mhm.
happiness don't always work like that.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so sorry that's happening. And it's crazy because like people don't really talk about that. Like you talk about, okay, if
Mm-mm.
you need to separate from somebody, we don't talk about
Mhm.
when people need to separate from you for that reason.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
really
I know.
hard pill to swallow. Like that's
It
hard to come
is.
to terms with. And I'm just so sorry that that's what you're dealing with.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
process, but I'm
Yeah.
learning with God to be okay. It is okay. It is
Mhm.
okay. And I keep reminding myself that it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said,
Yeah,
it's a
today's going to be a
process.
vulnerable episode.
I know. We
I'm going to
listen,
be in
if
my
y'all are watching on the YouTube, you already see we're bare fra I can't
Yeah.
even talk. I can't talk. We are barefaced today. 'Cause that's just how we're doing it today, honey.
Yeah,
That's how we're feeling today,
that
okay?
part. I could not. I was like, I looked at my makeup brushes and sponges, and I'm like, I just
Nope.
don't. Not today. You just go, just show up, okay? Just show
Period.
up.
Period.
So
That's me too. Like, I was like, "It's gonna
when
be
I
what it's
saw
gonna be
you and
today." I know.
when
They're
I
like, because girls do this. They be like, "Okay, what are you wearing? How do I need to
yes,
look?" I almost texted Mel and was like, "Girl, I'm not doing the face today." And
hmm
I didn't do it because I was like, "Whatever." And then I
yeah,
came on and she also wasn't doing
yep,
it.
sure
We
wasn't.
love
We
to
were on
see
the
it.
same page.
Same, just here,
Because I
okay?
almost text you too. I was like, "Mm, can we just do an
Ah.
audio today? Do we have
Right,
to face to face?"
girl. I thought about it too. Okay. But you know what? I said today we talking about self-love. And a
Mhm.
part of that is about self-acceptance
Yep,
wherever you are, in whatever
period.
state you're in, especially in the most vulnerable and natural. So that's why
Yeah,
I was like, I'm
for
showing up
sure.
as I am, and that's
Mhm,
enough. So
mhm.
anyway.
So what had you feeling some type of way? Look, not me asking you a
Girl, I
question.
know, right? Okay. So mine ain't that deep, but basically,
I love it.
listen, I was really frustrated because this past week I found myself reminding a certain person about information I had given them multiple times. Okay. And it's just like, why? Like, if I tell you, I've told you XYZ is gonna be the case. Why we I tell this is brand new information on today? What? I done
I'm
told
sorry.
you. I told
Oh,
you. I told you already like 3 times. This is the
yeah,
deal.
no.
So don't come for me. Okay, because low key, said person tried to come for me as if I didn't already say this. And I
Mm.
said, see, this one we're not gonna do today. Okay. God is
Not
still working on me. Okay.
okay,
Uh
yeah, that part. Oh, I know we don't like repeating ourselves. Give
no.
you just be having to give some more grace a little bit. We're not always all there. I get it. I'm guilty of that sometimes, I'm
No,
not gonna
okay, but
lie.
like multiple times though, it's okay if it's like a one time, but
Yeah.
like 2, 3 times, you still
You're
don't
not listening to me at this point.
know. And I'd
No.
like,
Like, I don't mean to trigger you all over again, but that's the truth.
it's fine. We moved past it.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
moving on. But I'm just
good.
gonna say, people, listen. Let's just listen. Okay. Let's really try our hardest to listen
You're
to what
right.
people are saying so we don't have to repeat it multiple times. Okay.
You know what? And let me just add to that because I'm guilty only because I hear you, but I'm guilty of that. Like, as a clinician working all day, you listen. You use so much of your
Okay.
energy to listen to people. So when I get
Mhm.
off work, like it's a shutdown. So there's some
Don't
things you're
talk to you
going
after work.
that's the note to take. No, for real. I'm like, you might not need to talk to people after you get off work
Uh,
because I'm fried and I
it's
won't
true.
recall anything after 9, 10 hours of working. Like I'm not.
Yeah. No, that okay, that's valid. That is
I know.
valid. At our last job when we had back-to-back sessions for 8
Mhm.
hours, yeah, my brain was fried too. I wasn't remembering
Yeah.
anything, okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that makes sense. Imma
Yeah.
give you a pass. Imma
Thank
give you a
you.
pass.
Thank you. Even though I know it wasn't
This
about
this
me.
other person, I don't know, but okay.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
All right. Well, enough of that.
Mhm.
Here is why we're here. Okay.
Right.
We are continuing our series on falling in love with me. And so
Mhm.
last time we talked a lot about a bunch of different things, choosing you,
Mhm.
boundaries.
Yeah.
What else did we talk about? Being intentional,
Values. Yeah.
values,
Mhm.
becoming.
Creating space to come undone. Mhm.
Yes. And
All
so
of
we
that.
are going to continue that. So, Mel, take it away. Tell us what is the next thing on our list of how we can
Yes.
fall in love with ourselves.
All right. So the next step is being intentional with what's feeding you. That's key. I didn't even realize
Mm.
how important that was, but
Wow.
so what that looks like is simply not watching all the things just because, not
Mhm.
listening to all the things just because, not entertaining all the things just because. We're being intentional with what is going to be fruitful for our growth, what is going to help us remain on a path of self-love. I say, like, for me, like, I'm a big Netflix fan, okay? And I
Mhm.
will sit there and watch all episodes of things and series, and I've learned that what I was consuming wasn't fruitful for me. It wasn't beneficial
Mhm.
to me, so I had to start shifting and implementing new things to watch or something
Yeah.
to read, or even music that I listen to is just like, can I start listening to like a podcast? Can I listen
Mhm.
to maybe something that's going to help me feel more motivated or affirmed in who I am and where I am in my journey? So, or even conversations, with people, like, just knowing like, I'm still working on that. Like sometimes I'll
Mhm.
just like, okay, just for the fun of it. But honestly, I notice a different taste bud when it comes to conversations, different outings. I don't want to
Mhm.
be in the same typical places. I want to change up the scenery. I want to engage in different activities. And again, this is still a process. It's not something that I've mastered completely,
Right.
but when you work on one thing at a time, you will get there. Even with
Mhm.
with what I'm eating and what I'm consuming and drinking and all of that, what I'm wearing and how I'm feeling, like that's a lot of intentionality there.
Yeah. Wow, consumption
Mhm.
in general is so
Mhm.
important.
Yeah,
We hear about like the feeding, like what you feed yourself, like physically with food. We know
yep.
that what we eat definitely affects our moods and different things like that, and what we drink as well. But we don't put too much thought in other types of things we're
Mhm.
consuming. I remember
Yeah.
when I used to watch Married at First Sight, okay, and listen, I had to stop. I had to stop because
Girl.
it was affecting
Facts.
me.
Facts.
Listen, when I saw all this toxic behavior, and it was right after I got divorced too, I said, "Mm-mm,
Yep.
this is too triggering. I literally cannot do this." Like,
Yep.
I'm taking in something that is just causing me pain at this point, and it's
Yeah.
irritating me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not relaxing me in any way. No. And so
Yeah.
I had to stop doing that. And there are many things too that once you like really get down to understanding also like how things make you feel when you're
That
in
part.
tune with yourself and you
Yeah.
realize, okay, I actually don't feel good when I'm doing this, then you can
Yeah.
be like, mm-mm, and cut it out. So I think that's really,
Right.
really important. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a form of like protecting yourself. If you're not being intentional with the things, we are used to being intentional with other people. But this
Mm,
is why
mm-hmm,
it goes back to ourself, learning how to implement those same external skills within ourselves internally. It
mm-hmm,
doesn't apply just to everybody else. Hi, what about you? You're
mm-hmm,
not going to let anybody talk to you any kind of way. So why do we let music? Why do we let shows and things like
mm,
that? You're not going to allow somebody to put something in your system, that's harmful. Like, so why are just being aware of that. And like you said, paying attention to how do you feel. Like I noticed, like, I don't feel good when I eat that, when I drink that, or when
mm-hmm.
I watch that. Like you mentioned, Married at First Sight. Love is Blind. I
Oh,
was like a team fan, okay?
yes.
Until now I tried to watch another one and it just after the first
Yeah.
episode, I couldn't even make it through the first episode, I will be
Mm-hmm.
honest. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not the same because, like, my brain is, like, being rewired, and
Mm-hmm.
there's things that I see now that's like, "That was never healthy." Like, I don't think that
Yes.
show is healthy at all because we're
Girl.
not gonna go into it, but it does create a lot of things that are not being discussed, which is what we're doing, is bringing
Mhm,
awareness to singleness and how important it is
mhm,
to heal yourself and do the work before you just run and want to get married and be in relationships. And we have broken people connecting with broken people trying to fill a void. Oh
mhm,
my gosh. And I realized that at one point that show was connecting to me because I felt that, but now I no longer
mm.
connect with it. So it no longer serves me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is really amazing how the appetite changes
It
because,
it
you like,
does.
there are times I bet that you were like, "There's no way I'll never watch Love Is Blind again." Like,
Right.
there's a point in time when you really felt like this was the best show ever, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden now you're like, "No." And I think
Mm-mm.
I've experienced that too, where there are things that I used to do that I'm like not interested in
Yeah,
anymore, literally, and I
that's
could
true.
not I never would have expected that that would be me, you know? But
Yeah.
you're right, like, there is something about growth
Mhm.
that changes your appetite,
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with that, and I think,
No.
just going back to what we had talked about before, when you know yourself and you know
Yep.
what you need, the
Correct.
appetite that is for you and not for everybody else,
Correct.
then you can be on that path. Like, I met somebody recently who is not on social media and hasn't been on for like 7 years, right?
Mhm.
And I was
Wow.
like, "What?" I don't know, it was,
Mhm.
like, mind-blowing, but once I heard this person talk, they're telling me, "Yeah, like, I realized it was doing this and this and this for me."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I really took a step back, I noticed how it made me feel, and I was like, "Why am I bothering with this?"
Right.
And they told me they don't miss it. Like, it's not a thing, right?
No. Yeah.
So, I think when you know yourself and you give yourself the space to figure that out, then you're also accepting of that change because people will be judging you like, "Oh, you don't have social media or you don't do this,"
That's facts,
right?
especially when you don't have
When
no followers and likes, and
right,
it's because 'cause I'm not a social media person either.
right.
I'm very inconsistent with social media, like, I barely wanna do it now. I
Yeah.
honestly, if it wasn't for my business, I would not
Mhm.
have a social media. My personal page is still deactivated from last year, like,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
All
but
right.
you're
Tell us what the
right.
next thing is.
Oh,
Yes.
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 Yeah, so the next one is my favorite, meeting your needs. Like,
Mm.
yes, meeting your own needs. That goes back to paying attention to yourself, being intentional with yourself. I used to operate in a space of, I thought being in a relationship, that person was supposed to meet my needs, you know?
Mhm.
And I've learned that no, from day one, it was my responsibility, and it still is my responsibility to meet my own needs. So if I need extra love today, like, and that's why I said know your values, because if you know your values, those values ground you. They give you meaning, your life meaning. They give you direction. They help you figure out like what it's kind of like filling your cup. I feel like when you know your
Mhm.
values, you know
Yes.
how to fill your cup. And so for me, I'll notice, like, when I check my values, like, when I feel a certain way, like, let's say if I feel like I don't have enough love flowing in my life today, I'll say, well, you haven't fed that value in a while. Like, that's one of your
Mm.
core eights, And so I'll figure out a way, like, how can I show myself love today? Like, what do I need?
Mhm.
Communicating to myself, like, what could I give myself in this moment to help me feel, let's say, connected to my spiritual, relationship with God or whatever it is. So just being attentive to what is it that you need? What do you need to say to yourself?
Mhm.
What do you need to do for yourself? How do you need to show up for yourself? The things that you would want somebody else to give to you, imagine yourself giving that to you,
Mhm.
become that
Mhm.
very thing that you need for your own well-being, for your own stability, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, or whatever. So just being intentional with meeting your own needs and not
Yeah.
requiring someone else to do that.
Mhm. Meeting your own needs is so hard.
I
And I
know.
remember I had a therapy session maybe about a month ago or so where I was talking to her about how lonely I was feeling and how sad I was feeling and all
That's
I
the
wanted,
hardest feeling.
girl, I was telling her like all I want is for someone to just hug me, to just
Mhm.
like tell me it's going to be okay, to just be there to give me that comfort. And she was like, "Okay, so how can you do that for yourself?"
Right.
And she said, "Maybe it would be helpful if you think about you as a younger person, you
Mm,
as 4-year-old Dania. Like, if you think about what would 4-year-old you need in this moment, and you
yeah.
talk to yourself as if you're talking to your 4-year-old self, because what happens is we are so hard on ourselves
Yeah.
today that we are so mean to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so you have to get to a
Hmm.
point where like the comforting words that you want from somebody else, you say
Mhm.
that to yourself,
Yeah.
right? I think the biggest challenge though with meeting your needs is that sometimes they were never met in the first place, so you don't even know
Right.
how to do that, right? Like,
Right.
ideally, you grow up, you have parents who meet your needs and teach you how to meet them yourself. So when you get
Mhm.
older, you can do that. But
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't happen.
No, we've
Um,
become neglectful of that, like, feeding.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when you're used to that neglect, it's hard to, again, know how to give that to
Right.
yourself, right? And so I think in a lot of ways, there's a lot of talk of like inner parent, right? And being
Mhm.
not inner parent, inner child and parenting your inner child. And I
Okay.
think there is a need for us to, again, like understanding what are our needs even, because I don't think
Right.
that we even know that. Sometimes people say, okay, what do you need in this moment? And you don't even know. So I think we
Yeah.
need to figure that out first. And sometimes that requires us to like dive all the way back into maybe some neglected childhood needs that were not met that are
Right.
carrying over
Right.
into adult life.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, it kind of brings me back to those values because, like, when I meet with people and I ask them, like, what's important to you? Like, what are your
Mhm.
values? Oftentimes, their values are surrounded by the neglectful experiences that they've had in childhood
Mm.
and giving them the opportunity to redefine it and say, well, okay, I get that, but what would you want today? What would you choose today based off
Mhm.
who you are and not who you were and what has
Yeah.
happened to you because of that? Because we often crave, like, I'll speak for myself. I wanted what I didn't have in my childhood. I
Mhm.
wanted what I didn't have in my past, as if that's what I really needed. I didn't really need that. I craved it because it was a something that I saw that people had, or it
Mm.
looked good and it seemed like it felt good. But then when I got it, I was like, oh, I don't think I really needed that. I just
Mm.
had an idea, like a false illusion of what that would be like to really get it. And so, yeah, meeting your own needs does take time to process and
Mhm.
understand, and you have to spend time with that. But again, if you don't even understand what's valuable to you, what's important, what are your core 8, some will have you pick out 10, but that is how you can start meeting your needs, by feeding those values, what's important to you.
Mhm.
That sets the path and a journey for you, in my opinion. I mean, everyone has their own thing, but I will say for me, once I understood what was important to me, that's how I started meeting my own needs. And it
Yeah.
didn't look like the way I thought it was supposed to. I thought I valued certain things, and
Mm.
that's why I had discrepancy or dysfunction in my life, because I didn't need those things. Those things weren't important to me. Culture
Mhm.
said it was, society said it was, my parents said it was. It was never what I wanted and what
Mhm.
I needed. So that's when I shift gear and started saying, okay, now I know what I needed to. And honestly, you don't need to communicate it to nobody, because they're gonna be like, that's what you need. That's between me and me. Like, because
True.
some of the things that I need, like, honestly, I feel like, really? That's all you needed? Like, but
Yeah.
it's who I am, and I'm not gonna fight with that. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go for it.
Well, that's a really important point about just the comparison because that's what
Yeah.
happens, right? You
Hmm.
just said like you were looking at everybody else and like people had this and people had this and like
Yep.
this is what we think you're supposed to
Yep.
have. And
Hmm.
when you feed into that comparison, you are inauthentic with yourself because it's
That
not
part.
something that you actually want. It's
Right.
just what you're seeing, you know?
Hmm.
So I really love that you brought up that point because that's how we get like disconnected from self and like
Yep.
sucked into what everybody else wants.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. All right, girl. So what is the next thing?
It is embrace change in all forms. What that looks like is just not being resistant to what can change in your life, because
Mhm.
oftentimes we're not in control of a lot of things. Honestly, I'm gonna be real.
Anything.
We're right. I was gonna say we're not in
Control is a
control.
myth.
Yes, it is a complete myth. And so it's so important to, like, go with the current of change versus against it, and that it can look different. It can changes in everything. Changes in your
Mhm.
relationships, in your employment, within yourself, outside of yourself. Change is very uncomfortable for a lot of us. Wow, uncomfortable for a lot of us. And oftentimes it's resisted as if it's a punishment or we
Mhm.
don't want it. We're not in agreement to what this change is. And what I'm learning is by going with the change, it's leading me to where I'm supposed to be, what is for me, what's in
Mhm.
alignment for me, and not fighting against it because I want what I want when I want it, how I want
Mhm.
it, because this was my plan.
Mhm.
And if we being real, we know who's in full control of all things, right?
Period.
And so learning how to continue submitting to that understanding that, you know
Mhm.
what, if this is changing, it's changing for a reason. It's a part of the plan, it's a part of the process, and it's okay. I don't need to fight the change because the change is going to happen with or without you. You just got to figure out how to cope with it, whether you got
Mhm.
to cry or laugh it out. It could be good change, and change is not always bad. Change is for
Yeah.
the good. Change
Yeah.
is for the good. We weren't created to be broken and to be hurt and to be depressed and sad. We are holding on to things that just don't serve us anymore. And it's not because they're a bad person or that job was horrible. It's because you've done your part and you're
Mhm.
meant to move according to whatever the plan is that's happening
Yeah.
outside of your awareness.
Here's my question though, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've actually been having conversations too, just about change in life.
Mhm.
Why are we so resistant to change? Like, what is the reason?
I mean, if we gonna be real,
Let's get down to it. Okay.
I mean, my experience is I was taught create a plan, and
Hmm.
you execute it. And so it's your way. I was taught it's my way. I wasn't taught it's God's way. I wasn't taught
Mm-hmm.
to release control and release a sense of like because when we have control, like it gives us a form of like security in a way. Mhm. Like, I can control this, so I feel like I'm stable. I can manage this. But when we lose control, we don't feel safe. We don't feel secure. It's uncomfortable to walk in the unknown. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think for me, that's why I didn't do well with change because that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a part of my plan.
That part. You know, yes, 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 yes. So here's the thing. When things are the same, when
Mhm.
things are predictable, there
Mhm.
is to us a sense of security.
Mhm.
That is the problem. That
Yeah.
we hold this sense of security in the wrong things
That part.
because change
Come
is
on.
inevitable.
Yes.
Change is going to happen, like you
Yeah.
said, with or without you. But for
Yeah.
some reason, we think and feel like, no,
Mhm.
we need to know exactly what's going to happen. And
Right.
in knowing exactly what's going to happen, we feel like safe, like you said, secure, and we feel good. Like, okay, we got this. When in reality, we never
Mhm.
got this. We
Mm-mm.
never knew what was
Mhm.
ever going to happen. All of
Yep.
the plans that we had, they were never going to work out the way we wanted to
That's
because we never were in control in the first place. And the thing is,
listen.
when we are holding on to the security in the false control that we have, then
Mhm.
yes, as soon as any kind of change comes, we lose that sense of security
Yeah.
because it's not something that is controllable. And
Yeah.
you're right. Like, what if we embraced the fact that we don't have control,
That
and
part.
B, the fact that change is going to happen, but most importantly, C, that our security needs to be based on God.
That part.
Can you
I knew you were headed
imagine?
there.
Girl,
Mm.
can you imagine how at peace we would
Yeah.
be? We
Yeah.
would be so chill if we
Mhm.
really just embraced
Mm.
the change and embrace who our security is in.
Yep.
We would not worry about a single thing.
There was something I wrote, if you don't mind, because
Go
like you
ahead,
just
girl.
yeah.
Share.
Let me share what I wrote because this was on my mind and I couldn't believe it. And
Mm.
so as you're speaking, there's this delusion. This is what I wrote the other day. This was
Mhm.
like, when was that? April 14th? Yeah, not too long
Wow, 2
ago.
days ago. Mhm.
Right. So I wrote, there's this illusion of running out of time, and God keeps reminding me that I am exactly where I need to be. And the levels of frustration that I'm experiencing is simply because I want more than what God has given me. And
Hmm.
it's requiring me to be patient and not worry about time because I can trust God's appointed time. So if it's not happening for me right now, it just means it's not time. So in the meantime, I will keep meditating and leaning on his words to give me strength in the wait, in the process, because it is hard. And it's harder when I'm impatient. So embracing change comes with appointed time. And when
Mm,
you start to see that and realize that, you can
mhm,
release the control that you have and understand that God has it all figured out. We just need to catch up to that concept.
mhm,
He's
mhm.
already done what he needed to do, and it's hard because it's like, again, I wasn't taught that. And I was just telling my aunt yesterday and a friend today, I was like, yo, I feel like a newborn. Like I feel like I'm an infant
Wow.
all over again. Um it's really mind-blowing in a sense of, like, I'm learning how to speak again, but with God in my
Mhm,
heart, in my mind,
mhm,
in the center of all things. I'm learning how to walk again, but with God, you know? Like, everything I've learned up until this point, like, I feel vulnerable. I feel like an
mm,
infant, and so I've been isolating a lot more, which is why I said I feel very vulnerable today because it's like I realize I'm a newborn, and I'm trying to do this the way that is more in alignment with who created me, like who chose
mhm,
me, because I remember reading in John and it said it so perfectly, like when Jesus was talking to the disciples and he was like, I chose you, you didn't choose me, and I'm like, okay, so I need to stop fighting because whether I like this or not, you chose me. So what did
mm,
you choose me for? What do you need me to do? How do you need me to show up? And so change is a part of being chosen. That no
mhm,
longer serves you. Go, close that door, open, yes, no, pause, be still, decrease so I can increase. Like there's a
mhm,
lot that happens in the change. And if we stay so focused on fighting it, we miss the bigger picture. We miss the bigger
mhm,
purpose in that season for whatever it was supposed to be birthed or die in that space.
mhm. Yeah, let me just say this in what you just said here. You being a newborn, I just want to just say have grace with yourself in this
Oh yeah,
process
absolutely.
because we not judging a newborn for not walking because
Exactly.
that's not what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So just
Mhm.
give yourself some grace there.
Oh,
Just wanted to
yeah.
say that. The
Thank
next thing
you.
though, is yeah, when you were talking about, you know, again, so much talk about change is attached to control. And
Mhm,
when we can really give that up, like in my own personal experience, I mean, we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. This has been my experience. As soon as you kind of release that
mhm.
control, God does amazing things.
He
I mean, he's
does.
always doing amazing things, but like you can see it. Like he
Uh-huh.
really can work his full purpose through you once you're
Yep.
able to relinquish that control. And it's something that I have to remind myself of daily
Mhm.
because many times I'm like, let me just do this. Like, let me just, and it's just
Yep.
like, girl, calm it down, honey.
Right.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's remember who has the ultimate control,
Right.
who is determining everything that's happening at this
Yeah.
time, right? And so I think the change and control go hand in hand. And once
Mhm.
we're able to relinquish control, we can embrace the change
Yep.
and embrace the fact that it's going to happen and
Yep.
maybe not be so scared or worried or even
Mhm.
sad about the fact
Right.
that change is happening because like
Yep.
that's just what is normal.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Well said.
All right,
Yeah,
next
thank you.
thing.
Oh, wow. So the next thing is connecting to, and I wrote connecting to your purpose.
Mm,
But I had a session with a client and it changed my perspective on this. So we
okay.
might have to, yeah, we might have to
Okay, let's
unpack this
hear
in this
it.
moment.
Okay, let's do it.
So we were talking about how like people are often very stressed because they feel like I don't know my purpose.
Mhm,
It's like, oh, this is heavy. Like, this is what people fight for. I feel like I have no purpose. I feel like I'm here because I have no purpose. And at first, I
mhm,
was an advocate for like purpose over pleasure and purpose, purpose, purpose. And mind you, I had a friend that we did a live on this topic, but something was revealed to me as I was speaking to this client. And I said to her, I was like, you know, I'm starting to think I think we missed the mark that our purpose, first of all, is breath, like life, like God, like our connection to God. And I think once you understand who created you, right? Like you go back to it's like let me say this. Okay. Our purpose, what I'm learning is to reconnect to the source. Like initially I was disconnected, but I realized my purpose was to remain connected to the source, to my
Mm,
God. That to me is purpose because once you connect to your source, then everything that you do is purpose.
mhm,
What you walk in, you may not always realize because like a relationship, I remember
mhm.
telling you when we worked together, I felt like there was a bigger purpose was to meet you because look at what we've created
Yeah.
from our relationship. I feel like everything there's a divine, order or purpose existing outside of our awareness. And I've noticed with every encounter or situation, there's something that happens, whether it begins or it ends. And I've come across so many people and situations that have been impactful. Whether it's positive or
Mm,
negative, but it meant something. It served a purpose. So I'm not sure if purpose is about this is what you're supposed to do and this is who you
mhm,
are. I'm starting to realize and I'm still putting it together. I'm like, purpose is about remaining in who created us first. And he graced us for what we do in life.
mm,
I've called you to do this. So I don't know. Maybe you can help me with that. Cause I was
mm,
like
mhm,
processing that with her. And she felt more relief in the end because she was like, that kind of makes sense. Like I'm starting to understand, like, first of all, I'm not even connected to my source. That's purpose.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, wow. I love this. Yeah, the topic of purpose is
I
always
know.
very challenging
Yeah.
because many people have different views on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
think we have a different view on it because we have that relationship with God and that knowledge of God, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because when you think about purpose is like the reason, right? That is the reason. It is what is the explanation for this, right?
Exactly,
And so
right, and we're
when
living in that.
yeah, but I think a little bit of it comes back to control in some ways, where
Mm,
sometimes we think, "Oh, like, my purpose is to do this," and so we try to, like, make it happen and do all these extra things, but when
yes.
you are connected to the source, what happens is, like, God reveals things through that relationship
Mhm,
and
mhm,
provides the doors and the opportunities
right.
for things to happen. I think, like, when you can relinquish the fact that you can't create your own purpose, that purpose is
Yeah,
not something that you just, like, come up with, it's something that
yeah.
because the world says purpose is within you, right? And
Mhm,
yes, like, purpose is within you, but it's because of what God has placed in us. It's because of who we are
mhm,
in Him, and
mhm,
once we are, like you said, connected to who that
mhm,
person is,
mhm.
He will reveal it to us, and everything that we do will be in His purpose. Going on
Yes,
the street to the grocery store, you're walking in His purpose. You don't know who you can touch when you do that, like,
correct,
doing
correct.
regular things, doing grand things, being in sessions, like, doing your job. And so I think you're on to something. I
Thank
really
you.
do. I think that, I haven't really had the answer to this myself as
Mhm,
far as, like, what does it mean to live in your purpose? But my experience has been that once I got closer to God, once I nurtured that relationship,
mhm,
it was revealed. Like, that's how this podcast started. I can say with 100% certainty the podcast is part of my purpose
right.
because of and when you think about how it was birthed, I got divorced and I was in like the lowest of the low and I was going through a healing journey and I could not sorry. I couldn't let
Mhm,
myself get to a certain place because I wasn't allowing myself to feel the feelings, right?
mhm,
All these different things. And I realized that vulnerability was a big part of my issue, right? and I couldn't even be vulnerable with myself. It was just a whole thing. And
Yeah.
once I like broke it down, once I said, I'm not going to rely on myself anymore, and I really like gave that up to the Lord, literally, that's when God was like, okay, talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
this is the thing you're most scared to do, do it. And ever since then, I think I've been faced with many scary things I never thought I would ever do, but God is like, "Do it, because this is what you're supposed to
Mhm.
do." And I'm in a place where I can receive that, hear it, and obey because of the relationship that
Mhm.
we now have, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that because it just helped me maybe word it in a way of like our existence, our very own existence is purposeful. It is
Yes.
purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
believing that and acknowledging
mhm,
that and embracing that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, because, I remember having many conversations with previous clients at the eating disorder facility I worked at where people would say, I'm not enough or I'm not worth it. Right. And it's like, what
Easy.
does that mean? What you're not
Yeah.
enough for who? You're not worth it for who? Right. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, the very basis of existing is not enough. You need to be
Mm.
doing XYZ more. You need to look a certain way. Cause if you look a certain way, that tells everybody on the outside that you are XYZ person. But what about
Mm.
just being who you are? What
Right.
about that being okay? The fact that you exist and like that is fine, you know? So I'm glad you brought that up because I think we do not place value on existence. Like
No.
we don't think that that's enough. And that's because of what society says. Like
Yeah.
you exist, but you also need to be accomplishing XYZ in order
Mhm.
to be of, someone of
Yeah.
value. And that's just not the
Yeah.
case. You
Yeah,
don't
the very
earn the right to breathe.
right.
You know what
That's
I mean?
purpose. That's purposeful.
And
That's
and you are
intentional.
breathing because God is allowing you to breathe,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
God has more for you.
Yes.
I used to hear someone say, "Every day you wake up, that is God letting you know that He got work for you to do."
Period. I believe that. I feel that
Mhm,
same way. I had another thought. I was like, "You know what, God, thank you so much because now I feel like I understand when preachers say like have crazy faith." I feel like I
mhm,
finally got into that space of having crazy faith because I truly believe in my heart and my soul and all my spirit, okay, that for me to have breath today, you're not done. There's
you're not.
there's there's no way I can imagine what you have planned for me, but I trust that where I'm at today is enough evidence to know that you will continue to blow my mind. You
Mhm,
will. Because every day that I have breath, there's purpose, there's a chance for change. And I have this running joke with a client, which I'm not going to say it on here for reasons, but it's the belief that no matter who you are, there's still a chance because of who we serve, you
mm,
know? No matter what you've done, that's not our job to hold on to, well, this person and that person, and well, that's a horrible person. I don't think God could, you're not God, you know?
mhm,
So just understanding that our purpose here on earth is to honor who created us and remain in who created us
mm,
and to trust him with what he's given us to
mm.
manage.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Because you
Yes.
know what, too? When you
Come
think
on, God.
about listen, when you think about the fact that God created us, which
Mhm,
this is what I was going to talk about and what God has taught me. I won't say the whole thing, but like God was so intentional about us, each
mhm,
individual person.
mhm.
He shaped us, formed us, made us look exactly the way we look, gave us the character traits that we have, gave us specific, unique things to each and every one of
Yeah.
us, right? When he created us, and he specifically put each and every one of us on this earth.
Yes, he
Let's
did.
just period. If we just period that and just end,
Period, yes.
like what, like, can
Yeah.
you really just take that in? When you
Yeah.
think about God putting you on this earth, that means that He was intentional that you
Mhm.
need to be here.
Correct. Yep.
And whatever the reason is, I do believe will eventually be revealed to you. But let's just start with you need to be here, period.
Yeah. You have breath. There's a reason for
Hmm.
you to like there's no way you're here and it's supposed to be chaotic or miserable or whatever. No, there's purpose for you
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
And you have to first realize that your existence is enough purpose, is enough proof for your purpose. That's enough
Yes.
proof.
Your existence is enough proof of your purpose. Put that on a
Period.
t-shirt, okay? Listen, copyright that, okay?
For real,
Wow,
yeah.
I love that so much.
Me too. That just came to me. So I never said it before, but I love it. I need to maybe write that
Write it
down. But
down,
it's
honey.
but that is true. And that's what that session revealed to me.
Mhm,
That's what it did
mhm.
to me. That I was like, so when I was reading that, I prepped this like a
Yeah.
month ago. I wanted to change that because of what I saw in that moment. I was like, this is not okay.
Mm,
This
mhm,
is sad, you know?
mm.
And I didn't like that for her. So God, I feel like he moved in me in that moment to communicate to her, honey, you are purpose. You are.
Period.
You are.
Praise the Lord for just revealing things to us, for
Yes.
his
Yes.
revelations and his
Mhm.
touching of our hearts. And girl, let's just talk about change because that's what you just talked about. And
Yes.
the fact that you wrote something down, you had it in your head, and God revealed something
Come
else, you
on.
made that change for the
Right here
better.
on the
It
spot.
just happened. Like, wow.
Embrace it. Cause and I will be honest, in that
Yes.
moment I felt uncomfortable because it's the
Mm.
expectation that I'm prepared for today's
You
day,
already wrote that
right?
down.
I already wrote that down.
Mhm.
But because
That
you
was a
revealed,
plan.
I'm about to throw this mic.
Throw it.
But no, thank you for pointing that out to me. Exactly. In that moment, I had to embrace it because I
Mhm.
know who I serve and I trust him. And that is what happened. And I invited you. I was like, I'm going to need your help. Being okay to ask for
Yeah.
help in the when you
Yes.
don't understand the change or what's happening, maybe somebody else can give me insight. And you
Mm.
helped me to navigate this and put that in better perspective than I could have. So thank you.
Oh.
Okay. Yes.
Praise God. Let's thank the Lord because
Oh,
I feel like
yes,
he's in
always.
this. He's
He
in
is.
this.
Yes.
Wow.
That was
This is
awesome.
I love this. And this is what happened to me in the last episode. Like I had this big revelation in the middle of the whole thing.
I love
So we
it.
love to see it.
Ooh,
I think too, just this is a testament to our humanity. And like
yeah.
we are, we're clinicians, we have all this knowledge, but we're also human. We're figuring things
Yes.
out. That's again the point of this whole thing. We are figuring it out and we're sharing what we have learned with y'all. And so I'm very grateful for just this
Yeah.
experience. Like we
Yeah.
love to see
This is
it.
so exciting. Oh my God, this is so good.
Oh my
That's
gosh. Okay. Okay. Let's move on.
okay, yes. Yes. The next one. Fall in love with all of you and
Mm,
take your time.
wow. Okay. We need to take our time on this one. Okay. Girl.
Such a goofball. Yes, no, for real. Fall in love with every single part of you.
Mhm.
All things in you was made, okay, for a reason. And embracing that and loving that, taking care of it, being attentive to it, being patient with it, graceful with it. You know, we say that God created us, right? Let's trust his creation.
Okay. We just have
Let's
all the shirts right now. We're about to make some money, honey. I'm about to put these on shirts and sell them because wow.
Yes, I'm telling you, God did a number on me. I'm telling you, like, I was like, God, you created me. Let
Mm,
me take the time to appreciate what you created.
yes.
Let me,
Trust his creation.
and because I can trust him, I said it before, right? Okay. So that honestly, I don't know if you want me to say more,
I know. Do
but
we need to say
that
more?
is it. Like God created you. So
Period.
fall in love with the creation, all of it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing that I said about time. I don't care how much time you need. You take it. Because for every day that you have breath, right?
Mhm.
There's purpose. There's intent there. So yeah, I'ma love me because God chose me. I'ma love me
Mhm.
because he created me just as he needed me and gave me free will, right? to reconnect with him, right? Because at first it wasn't in my awareness when it came to him, like my relationship with him.
Mhm.
Now it is, and I had a choice, and I made my
Yeah.
choice. And so, yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say with
Drop the
that, but
mic at
yes.
this point, honey. Listen, okay, falling in love with all of you, I think
All of it.
is again, I'm thinking about just the why. Like, why is it so hard to do? And we all come back again to looking at everybody else, but like there's only one you.
There's
And
only one
God
you.
created you only. I mean, not you only. He created only one you.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like, why would you not
Right,
embrace all of that? Like,
right.
what is the reason for denying parts of you?
Mhm. Yeah.
Why? Because, like, I think a lot of times what happens is we deny it because we think we won't be accepted or loved or whatever from other people. But again, like, that all happens when you don't know and are not confident in who you are as God's child.
Thank you. That's what just revealed to me. Who taught you these things? Unlearn that. That doesn't serve you.
Yes.
God has his teaching in a special book. Let's apply that. Let's read that book, right? The
Mhm.
Bible. That's what we're referring to right here. Okay. If you want to know who
Period.
you are, read the Bible. If you want to know,
Mhm.
it's not for religion, it's for relationship with God. Find
Yeah.
out who God is, the type of love he offers, and just the whole story of Christ and all that. Like that is a we're meant to read the Bible. Like
Mhm.
we're meant to read it. And at one point I was so like, no, I don't know. But I
Mm.
realized when I read the Bible for relationship, he reveals all the beautiful things about myself
Yeah.
in that moment. Because I know oftentimes we can get in a space of like trying to apply certain parts of it, the good and
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
bad and all that. And it's like honestly just reading for like understanding and for connection and for guidance in certain areas. And if you look in the back, it tells you for trust, read this, for love, read this, for this and that, whatever. And so uh I really was going somewhere with this and then I
Okay. We're talking about reading the
no,
Bible.
no, I just like kind of went over to a whole nother side, but no, I can't. But no, what I wanted to say was the lens. You kept saying looking, looking, looking. And so
Yes.
looking through the lens of God, of who we
Mhm.
are and who we were created to be, and that we were
Right.
created to be fruitful, not broken, like not
Mhm.
that doesn't work that way. Once you learn and understand that and see yourself how God sees you,
Mhm.
that's when your language changes. That's when your behavior changes, because you're taking the time. Like I was saying to my friend the other day, I was like, you can tell who's really not reading the Bible. I was guilty of this. I sounded crazy. Like I didn't have any biblical reference and I sounded like I was like, yeah, I believe in God, honey, but you sound like you don't serve a God the way you're speaking and carrying
Oh,
yourself.
okay.
So, but I get it now. I see why they
Yeah.
say you can tell because if you were, you would speak in a way of
Mm.
knowing who you are in Christ and not who you are based off the world's perception of you, your experiences. God reminds us in the Bible to not conform to the ways of this world for a reason.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I, you know, I see you differently for a reason. So
Yes.
I feel like when you said look, you kept saying look, like we look at this, we
Mhm.
compare, we do this, the lens that we're looking through is not of Christ. So
Exactly.
you can tell the difference. So when you start to speak worry, fear, and all the other things, that's not of
Mhm.
Christ. You're speaking of flesh. You're speaking of experience. You're not speaking of knowledge of knowing God. You know what? You got me no matter what.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I know, all the things that we can quote and say, but that's what I mean by know who you are in Christ. And so to know
Yes.
who you are in Christ allows you to fall in love with everything, okay?
Yes. You got there,
Every
girl.
single thing. I know I had to come back. I was like, girl, where did you
You
go?
got it. You got it. Period. Okay. Yes, I was going to just add there with what you were saying about the Bible. The Bible is God's way of communicating with us. And I mean, he can
Yeah.
communicate with us in many different ways, but he uses the Bible. Like that's a big part of it. And so reading it, learning it, understanding it is our it's like a
Mhm.
direct thing of like, "Hey, yeah, this is it," you know?
Yeah.
And like you said, I think even with like knowing reading the Bible and being able to tell what you can tell is really just the type of relationship you have with God. Like, do you know him? Because that's really
Right.
what it is. When
Mhm.
you know, but the Bible says by beholding, you become changed. When you know him, you are like
Come on,
him.
speak.
And when you are like him, you're gonna love yourself because why
Right.
not? Because
Right.
literally he
Yeah.
created you. So I think that's a big part of it as well, you know?
Yeah.
Um, okay. Yes. All right, girl. I think is there one more?
Yeah, there oh,
Wait, did we go through the whole thing already?
girl, that was it. That was
No.
oh, that was it. Yeah,
That's
no,
it?
and I just yeah, and I to add to it is just give yourself grace on this journey. It takes time to fall in love even with you. Oh.
Okay, that's not it. So that wasn't it, but that is it right there. Okay, let's say that again, honey. Say that again.
Give yourself grace on this journey, right? On your journey, you need grace, but it takes time to fall in love, even
Yeah.
with you.
I love that. Grace
Yeah.
is so important because
Yeah.
I think, especially as Black women, there's
Yeah.
so much pressure. I think I talked about this before, but there's a lot of pressure that is placed on us externally, but we also place on ourselves.
Yeah.
And we give grace to everybody else, but why don't we give it to ourselves?
Ourselves.
Right, we need to. This is a
Yeah.
journey. It's a lifetime, a
Yeah.
lifelong journey of understanding yourself, knowing yourself, and ultimately loving yourself.
Yeah.
And so remembering that you're not going to get it right perfectly, and that is okay, and that you're going to
Mhm.
make mistakes still, and that
Yep.
you're not going to be perfect,
At all.
and you're figuring things out is
Correct.
okay.
It is absolutely 100% okay.
Yes.
Trust the process. God already knew, okay? He knew the challenges that would come when he created us. Like
Mm-hmm.
he already called it. He just wants us to keep showing up, keep choosing,
Yeah.
keep seeking him, keep leaning onto his word. So
Mm-hmm.
just don't give up in that,
Yeah.
Take it
And
one day at a
also,
time. Mhm.
mhm. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say take it one day at a time, one breath at a time, one sermon, one reading, one prayer, one everything. Because
Mhm.
as we said before, it is a marathon, not a sprint.
Sprint, exactly. I forgot what I was gonna say, so
No, now what happened to you? I should have
I
let
know.
that's why I always like try to give you that leeway to speak because I know
No.
right there you gotta
And
get it.
then the brain is like, not me out here judging people for forgetting things when I'm out here judging in the midst of the conversation. I mean, forgetting in
Oh,
the midst of the
let me
conversation.
say
No, it's okay. It's okay.
it's
Um, we're just gonna move on here.
God,
I'm
like,
not
I'm
editing any
done.
of this. We're gonna keep this in, y'all. This is us. We're real. We're raw.
Yes, and
We're
I love
figuring it
it.
out.
Thank you for acknowledging that because I just wanna be real. Can we be real? Because I don't wanna not be
Yes.
real. I just wanna
Yes.
be human, like,
Yes.
unapologetically human. I don't wanna hear anything about, "Oh, the" well, I ain't gonna say that. See, I told you he's still working on me. He's still
He's still
working
working
on
on
me.
me too,
He's
girl.
still working on me. But let's just say this. I'm just glad. I'm so proud of us because we did not allow the pressure of what's expected when we show up, to
Mhm.
do this right here, what
Right?
we're doing.
Perfection. Mhm.
Perfection, right?
Mhm.
To pull us away because I feel like today's session was just needed. And guys, you have
Yes.
no idea how we feel.
It's been rough, y'all.
It's
Imma just
been
tell you,
rough.
I don't even know how the first half of this, is gonna go because we're having some technical difficulties, but we're having
Yeah.
faith in the Lord. It's
Amen.
gonna work out. We're gonna figure this out because people need to hear this, so we're gonna get this out. But it's
Yes.
been rough, y'all. So
Yes. Yeah, and I'm glad that we can be very open and vulnerable in
yeah.
this moment to allow that, to be, transparent in this,
Mhm.
recording, in
Yes.
this yeah, because I don't wanna portray perfection. I wanna portray
Exactly.
like, I wanna be real, and I'm not comfortable in a space of not being real, and
Mhm.
so I'm glad that we were able to still do this and be like,
Same.
we're not doing this for us. We see the bigger picture here. We see the bigger
Period.
purpose here. So we're just gonna show up and do the best we can. So we appreciate you guys.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's jump into our final and most important favorite segment, what God has taught me. So, Mel, go ahead and let us know. What has God taught you recently?
Recently, God has taught me that I am exactly where I need to be.
Mm.
Uh-huh. And that I have exactly what I need to be. Yes. I'm gonna explain that a little bit more. Um, in addition to that, the reason why I said I'm exactly where I need to be and I have exactly enough to be is that God has equipped me for exactly where I am.
Mhm.
And I noticed that I was experiencing like frustration and conflict when I was trying to go outside. I didn't even notice I was doing that.
Mm.
I was like, I kept trying to do things and it kept like, I'll say the spirit. The spirit kept pulling me back and say, well, what do you have? Because this is enough. What we've given you,
Mhm.
what you have is enough for you to be. And I realized that I was in conflict with that because I was still I was very impressed with what he has given me up until this point. And because of that, I thought I could do more. But I
Mhm.
have to just be in this moment, in this season, and not do anything more because there's a reason why I'm
Mm.
equipped with my cap. I'm at my capacity of what I need, of what I want, and I have to get familiar with that. And for like for example, I took a break from listening to like sermons and things like that. And I was a little scared about that because I thought I would like lose the connection. But I
Mhm.
realized that I needed to do that because I needed to apply all the knowledge and information. I needed time. I didn't give myself time to apply what I've learned over the
Mhm.
course of months,
Right,
maybe even a
right.
year. I just kept going and going, kept feeding myself. So where I was starting to feel a little burnt out. And
Mhm.
so God is reminding me that I have enough. And so just use that and be in that. And being in that is so still. It's so abnormally like because I'm isolated, I'm not as outside as I was before.
Mm. Mhm.
And so I'm learning how to make what he has given me enough, what he has equipped me with right now, today, enough, because then he will level me up to whatever's next. And I want to be prepared for that, right? So I am learning, and it's so hard, y'all. Like, it is hard because at first, like I said, I'm like, why am I'm stressing my own self out because
Mhm.
I'm steady going based off what I want. I'm going back to the I need to stay away from the I
Mhm.
and stay in the will of what God has permissed until this point.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's what God has taught me this past week.
Okay, I started smiling in the beginning
I know, I saw
because
that.
I was gonna say the very same thing.
We are
We're just
this
here, girl. Okay, I wanna show you something. I don't know if you can see it. This is my phone screen right here. It
Mhm.
says, "Perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created." Esther 4,
Mm.
verse 14. And let me tell you, I've had this on my phone screen for a long time as just a reminder that this God has placed you where you need to be. Maybe this is the moment God created for you
Mhm.
to be
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
right? And it's just funny because as you're talking, well, I
I
was
love
I was going to
it.
talk about my self-love study. So
Mm.
actually, you were the one that impressed upon me to do this. So I mean I've been doing my Bible studies anyways, but I kind of like choose something specific to do and then I like move on to the next. So I was finishing up whatever I was doing
Mhm.
before and I was like, okay, what should I do next? Right. And yes, the self-love talk that we had, like, just
Mhm.
everything, I was like, "What does the Bible say?" Like, let me try
Mm.
to, again, go to the Bible and see what I can gather from this, and so in
Yeah.
my studies, what I've been learning so far is again, like, God's intention for us. God's intention that leads to his love for us. Like,
Mhm,
when you think
mhm.
about how much God loves us, the Bible talks about how that he knows the hairs on our heads. He knows everything
Mhm.
specific to us. He knows us like no one knows us, okay? Like, because he literally created us. And when you think about how intentional he's been, which I know I've been saying this over and over again, but it's just something that's come up a lot more in the stories that I've been reading.
Mhm.
Every situation was done in a way where whoever the character was in the Bible was prepared.
Yep,
Whatever they had in them, it was
yep,
meant for that. And so
yep.
Esther is a perfect example of that. Esther, she literally was in a place where any ordinary person would have been killed. Like, everything that she did probably would have led to death. But
Mhm.
Esther didn't die because God had a greater purpose for her. And in the story of Esther, her uncle, when she was scared and she was like, "How can I do this?" Her uncle was like, "What if this is the moment that God created you for?"
Wow.
Right? And so then she went in there, did the thing, and saved her people. And so,
Wow.
I try to hold on to this too because I'm now in a place where I've transitioned into a new job. And girl, there are so many times that I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm an
Yeah.
imposter. I don't belong here. And I
Yeah.
question myself. And there's a lot of new opportunities that are coming up for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what I'm doing. But then I have to this reminder, it's okay. I put you
Mhm.
here.
Yep.
God tells me, "I put you here," you know? Actually, I think it was last week I was talking to someone and I was stressed out about work. No, not this last week. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I was stressed out about work and something. And I was like, I was expressing these same feelings, like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know if I know what I'm
Mhm.
doing right. And the person said to me, God allowed every single person to walk into your office at the time and the day that they did because he knew they needed to speak to you.
Mhm.
That was not an accident. He
Mhm.
did that because you needed to see them, right?
Mhm.
And so I had a lot of concern for one specific person. And I mean, like, we prayed about it. And hello, the client texted me last week, is like, everything worked out. It's okay. And so it's just that
Mhm.
small thing,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, okay, all right, so I am here for this reason. Like, you did do this,
Yep.
Sometimes
Yep.
we need that reminder, especially I think for us as clinicians, the imposter syndrome is
Mhm.
so real.
Mhm.
But God is like, I put you there
Yeah.
for this reason. So you're going to
Mhm.
be okay. I gave you the skills, just like you said, girl. I gave you the skills. You are who
Yep.
you are. You have these skills for this moment.
Mhm.
So don't worry. So
Yeah.
that's it's crazy
Yeah.
that we had like the same thing because we didn't talk about
We
this.
did not talk about it, and if you're trying to do more than what he has given you, that's on you.
Hmm.
That is completely
Hmm.
on you, and I couldn't I when that was revealed to me, I was like, "Oh, okay. Be
Yeah.
still. Be still. Gotcha. You're right. You're right. That's why I'm frustrated because I'm trying to do more than what
Yeah.
and I trust you, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna chill. You're right. But we are 2 aligned today.
I know. I love it.
Can't wait to talk to you afterwards because honey.
Girl, we have a whole next podcast,
I
secret podcast for
know.
just us. Okay.
That's true.
Oh
That's
my
true.
gosh.
Thank
Well,
you. This is
Mel,
good.
a pleasure as always to talk to
Mhm.
you, as always to have you on. This was
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yes.
I just thank you so much for joining
Welcome.
me.
You're so welcome.
And until next time, y'all. Bye.
Bye.